So, I want you to imagine walking into a retail store where the shelves are completely bare, like totally empty.
Right, just nothing on the floor at all.
Exactly. There's no boxes in the back room. There is zero physical inventory, um, no delivery trucks pulling up to the loading dock, but the cash register is just ringing nonstop.
It's a great visual. And,
Hmm.
that scenario is exactly what millions of merchants are actually doing on Shopify right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of wild because when most people hear the name Shopify, they immediately picture like shipping labels, right? Bubble wrap, tracking numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Physical boxes.
Right. But today, our mission for this deep dive is to decode a completely different side of that infrastructure. We're going to look at how to bypass those physical constraints entirely, basically to sell your time and your expertise.
Yeah, and the source material we're using today to really unpack this is a comprehensive guide. It's dated April 7, 2026, and it's titled Shopify for Services, Bookings, Appointments, and Setup.
It's a really fascinating read.
It is. And to understand why this specific capability is drawing so much attention right now, you really have to look at the macroeconomic shift happening around us. I mean, we are operating in this booming service economy.
Yeah, consumers are definitely shifting their spending.
Exactly. They're directing a massive portion of their disposable income toward, experiences, wellness, specialized consulting, local services. And out of the 6.9 million merchants on Shopify, this rapidly growing segment has figured out how to adapt this massive e-commerce engine to sell an invisible product.
An invisible product. I love that framing. So the goal here is to really shortcut the learning curve for you. Whether you're, say, a local plumbing business trying to optimize your dispatch or a yoga instructor managing class
Or
capacities.
even a consultant, right? Just
Yeah.
selling virtual hours
What?
from your living room.
Right, exactly. You can leverage this exact same architecture. But to do that, we first have to understand how the platform's backend actually conceptualizes a service. Because, I mean, Shopify was built from the ground up for physical goods.
Yeah, it was.
So it doesn't have a native, entirely separate operating system just for services.
No, it doesn't. But the underlying mechanic is surprisingly elegant. In the software's architecture, a service is quite simply a product with the shipping disabled.
That's it.
That is the foundational secret in the code. Rather than building like a whole parallel universe for service providers with its own complex taxonomy, the developers just realized they could use the existing product infrastructure.
Oh, wow. So they just repurpose what's already there.
Exactly. The system simply looks at the item in the cart and processes an internal rule that basically says, I do not need to calculate a postal zone for this.
That is so smart. And the guide walks through a 5-step setup process for this, which really highlights how simple that foundational mechanic actually is.
Yeah.
Step 1 is literally just creating a product.
Right, just like you would for a physical item.
Yeah, you go into your dashboard, title it something like 60-minute business strategy call, write your sales description, set your price, and then you scroll down to this single checkbox that says, this is a physical product, and you just uncheck it.
And the cascading effect of unchecking that single box is massive on the back end.
Really? Just from one click?
Yeah, because the system immediately strips away all the code related to calculating weight, defining parcel dimensions, enforcing shipping requirements from the checkout flow, all of it. The friction just entirely vanishes.
It is essentially like turning off gravity in a video game. Suddenly you just aren't weighed down by customs forms or, international shipping zones.
Right, you're just free of all those physical rules.
Exactly. If you're offering a purely virtual service like coaching over Zoom, you exist entirely in the cloud from day one. But the architecture goes a layer deeper, I think, when you look at how the platform uses the variant system.
Yes, the variant system is huge here.
Because in traditional e-commerce, a variant is used for physical attributes. Like if you sell a t-shirt, your variants are small, medium, large, or maybe red, blue, green.
Right. But for a service business, you use that exact same variant logic, but you map it to time and scope.
Oh, interesting. So how does that work in practice?
Well, take a local photography studio, for example. The core product page is simply portrait photography session.
Mm.
But the variants attached to that product might be a 30-minute studio session for $150 or a 60-minute outdoor session for $250.
Or even like a full day shoot for $800.
Exactly. And they all sit on one clean, unified product page using the exact same database structure that a clothing brand uses to sell different sizes of a jacket.
Okay, but this brings up a really critical mechanical question. If the customer adds that 60-minute photography variant to their cart, how do they actually choose the day and time?
Ah, right.
Because you can't just put next Tuesday at 2 p.m. into a standard digital shopping cart. Unchecking the physical product box might turn off the shipping, but it doesn't just magically generate a calendar interface.
No, it doesn't. And that gap in the native functionality is where we really see the hybrid power of the platform come into play. But before we solve that calendar issue, we need to understand the advantage of treating a service as a product in the first place.
Okay, yeah, what's the upside there?
Because the core system still views that 60-minute session as a standard cart item, you unlock the ability to cross-sell physical goods seamlessly.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, so a salon owner can have a client book a haircut appointment, and on that exact same checkout page, the client can add a physical bottle of specialized shampoo to their cart.
That is brilliant. The transaction is completely unified.
Exactly. One swipe of the credit card pays for the future time slot, and the physical product they'll pick up when they arrive.
You don't have to send them to some separate scheduling website for the appointment and then ring them up on a different system for the retail products.
Right. Integrating your services directly into a world-class e-commerce engine is the primary value proposition here. However, to solve the calendar problem you mentioned earlier, you have to tap into the app ecosystem.
Right, the third-party apps.
Yeah, the guide is very upfront that Shopify requires a third-party application for calendar-based scheduling. That is step 2 of the setup process.
So let's unpack how to navigate that app ecosystem because honestly, the sheer volume of options can be super overwhelming. The source details this really mature marketplace with over 9 well-rated booking apps.
Yeah, it's a lot to sift through.
It is. So instead of just reading through a catalog of features, let's look at the specific business problems these apps are actually designed to solve.
That's a much better way to approach it.
Right. So say you're a solo life coach listening right now. You probably don't want to dig through 5 different software suites comparing enterprise features. You just want a path of least resistance to get clients on your schedule.
Absolutely. And for that specific scenario, the solo operator focused on speed to market the guide highlights an app called BookX.
BookX. Okay.
Yeah, they offer a free tier that allows a solo provider to have a live, functional calendar embedded on their site in under 10 minutes.
Wow, 10 minutes. That's fast.
It really is. It solves the immediate problem of mapping a product variant to an actual date and time without adding any overhead costs.
But business needs evolve, right?
Mhm.
Say that solo coach grows, brings on 2 other coaches, and maybe starts renting out a physical studio space. The scheduling math suddenly gets a whole lot more complicated.
Oh, it gets way more complicated. And that is where the ecosystem provides specialized tools. The guide points to an app called Tipo, which is built specifically for small teams.
Okay, what makes Tipo different?
It handles custom intake forms before the appointment, and it has deep point-of-sale integration. But if the team grows even larger, perhaps a full-service salon with 7 or 8 stylists, an app called Easy Appointment Booking becomes highly relevant.
Easy appointment booking. Why that one for larger teams?
Its major differentiator is offering unlimited staff members on its free tier, which solves a really significant operational cost problem for businesses that have a high headcount but maybe run on tighter margins.
That makes total sense. And what if the business model is entirely different? Like, what if someone is running a virtual membership community or they teach online workshops?
Then you'd look at an app called Meaty. It solves that virtual first problem. It automatically generates and sends Zoom links upon checkout, handles recurring subscriptions for ongoing coaching, and even manages waitlists for classes that cap out.
That's incredibly robust. What about huge operations?
On the furthest end of the complexity spectrum, if you have a massive multi-location setup like a franchise of spas across different cities, an app called Appointo handles that kind of multi-day, multi-geography routing.
Okay, so looking at this whole ecosystem, there's an obvious question regarding architectural focus here. Why rely on third-party developers at all?
It's a fair question.
Right, because Shopify has billions of dollars in resources and thousands of engineers. Why wouldn't they just build their own native calendar widget directly into the dashboard?
It really comes down to the immense computational difficulty of multi-resource scheduling.
Multi-resource scheduling. What do you mean by that?
Well, building a simple calendar is easy, but building a system that ensures Room A, Stylist B, and Laser Equipment C are all simultaneously available at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, while also factoring in the stylist's lunch break and the equipment's cooldown period.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
Right? That is incredibly complex software logic. Shopify's core directive is to be a globally scalable e-commerce and payment engine. By opening an API and letting dedicated development teams obsess over scheduling logic, Shopify frees its own engineers to obsess over checkout conversion rates, fraud prevention, and global tax compliance.
Let the scheduling experts build the calendar and let the e-commerce experts handle the money. That makes perfect sense. So once you have that invisible source set up and your third-party calendar mapped to your products, you run into the next big operational hurdle. And this is a challenge that's entirely unique to the service industry.
Getting people to actually show up.
Yes, making sure the client walks through the door. Because if a warehouse worker delays shipping a physical sweater by 1 day, the sweater retains its value. But time is a highly perishable inventory. You cannot put an empty 2 p.m. appointment slot back on the shelf to sell tomorrow.
No, you can't. Once that time passes, the revenue potential is permanently destroyed. And the source addresses this perishable inventory problem by analyzing payment strategies, which effectively serve as the antidote to client ghosting.
It's all about the money.
It really is. Choosing when and how you collect the money changes the entire psychological dynamic between the business and the customer.
The guide outlines 3 specific payment structures, and analyzing the friction versus commitment trade-off here is just super crucial. Option 1 is full prepayment.
Right, charging 100% upfront.
Yeah, at the exact moment of booking. The source notes this is highly effective for high-value, fixed-scope services. Like, if you are selling a $500 business consultation, charging it all up front completely eliminates the no-show risk. The client is financially locked in.
True, but the trade-off is that it introduces maximum friction at checkout. Some potential clients will just abandon the cart if they're asked to pay hundreds of dollars before ever meeting you.
Yeah, that is a huge barrier for a new customer. So option 2 balances that friction by using a deposit plus balance model. You might charge, say, 25% or 50% online to secure the calendar slot and collect the rest in person.
Which is the standard for businesses where the final invoice might change during the appointment, like a salon. A client might book a standard facial, but then upgrade to a premium treatment once they're actually in the chair.
Right, and this is where the digital to physical bridge gets really interesting to me. How does a hybrid payment actually flow from the digital booking app to the physical store?
It relies on Shopify's point of sale, or POS, integration.
Okay, how does that work?
So when the client pays that 50% deposit online, the booking app tokenizes that transaction and creates an open order in the Shopify system. 2 weeks later, the client walks into the physical studio, receives their service, and steps up to the front desk.
And the front desk has, like, an iPad or something.
Exactly. The provider uses a physical Shopify card reader or tablet. The system pulls up that specific appointment, recognizes the digital deposit that was already paid, and automatically calculates the remaining balance. The client taps their card, and the invoice is closed seamlessly.
That level of synchronization is crazy. That usually requires enterprise-level, resource planning software. But here it's achieved just by stacking a booking app onto the basic platform.
It really lowers the barrier to entry for small businesses.
It totally does. Now, the third payment strategy outlined in the guide is paying entirely at the appointment. Zero upfront cost.
Mechanically, this offers the absolute lowest friction to get a booking on the calendar.
Because a new customer has literally nothing to lose by clicking confirm.
Right. But consequently, it carries the absolute highest risk of ghosting. The source explicitly recommends reserving the zero upfront model for established, trustworthy clients or for incredibly fast, low-value services where a missed slot doesn't severely damage the daily revenue target.
Yeah, the psychological weight of even a small, like, $15 deposit completely alters the customer's commitment to showing up.
It really does. It flips a switch in their brain.
So running this kind of highly synchronized machine sounds expensive. Knowing how to capture the booking and mitigate the no-show risk is valuable, but we really need to look at the raw economics of keeping this digital storefront online.
Let's talk numbers.
Yeah, the source breaks down the estimated monthly operating costs by business stage, which I think really helps ground the theory in reality.
Right. If we look at the solo starter profile, the estimated baseline is around $54 a month.
Okay, $54. How does that break down?
That is comprised of the Shopify Basic Plan at $39, relying on a free tier of a booking app like BookX, and factoring in roughly $15 in standard credit card processing fees based on, early stage volume.
That's pretty reasonable. But as the business scales into a growing team with a few staff members, the estimate shifts to about $99 a month.
Because you remain on the $39 basic plan, but you now need to allocate around $15 for a paid app tier to handle multiple staff calendars and routing.
Right, plus an estimated $45 in processing fees as your transaction volume increases.
Exactly. And finally, for a multi-location operation, you're looking at roughly $254 a month.
Which is a big jump.
It is. That involves upgrading the core platform to the $105 plan for better reporting, paying $29 for a pro-tier booking app with location routing, and around $120 in processing fees.
There is also a structural optimization note in the guide that's worth mentioning. Shifting from monthly to annual billing on the core Shopify plan reduces the overall software overhead by like $120 to $1,200 a year, depending on the tier.
Yeah, always look for the annual discount.
Always. But let's apply some critical thinking to these numbers. $54 up to $250 a month is a tangible operating expense, especially for a newly launched service business. If the primary goal is just letting people choose a time on a calendar, why not use one of the many completely free scheduling tools available on the market?
That is a completely valid point, and the source actually validates that exact critique.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guide explicitly states that if you are a solo provider with absolutely no physical products to sell, and you only require a basic calendar interface, you should not use Shopify.
Okay, good to know.
The platform is entirely over-engineered for that specific use case. Free or low-cost tools like Square Appointments, Calendly, or Acuity are much better suited for a business whose only digital requirement is a time selection widget.
Right. The economics only make sense if you are actually utilizing the broader ecosystem. The platform's cost is justified when a business plans to scale staff, wants to sell physical retail products alongside their appointments, or needs to leverage advanced marketing and automation workflows to drive discovery.
And discovery is a really unique challenge for service providers. Think about it. A typical e-commerce brand can run global social media ads to find buyers anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you just ship it.
Exactly. Service providers, however, are usually geographically bound. Their customers are local, they rely heavily on repeat business, and they are discovered through search intent.
Which is why the guide zeroes in on local SEO, or search engine optimization, as the primary growth engine here. For those unfamiliar with the mechanics, local SEO is the process of structuring your digital presence so that Google clearly understands exactly where your business is located and what services you provide.
Right, so when someone standing in downtown Chicago searches emergency plumber near me, Google uses those exact data signals to populate the map results.
And Shopify provides built-in, really granular SEO tools for this. You can customize the meta titles, those blue links you click on a Google search page, and the URL handles of every single service variant.
By linking your Shopify storefront to your Google business profile and ensuring your address, hours, and service descriptions perfectly match across the web, you basically feed the search algorithm the exact structured data it needs to rank your business locally.
It's all about consistency. But beyond just getting found, the guide discusses strategies to increase the lifetime value of the clients you do acquire. One of the most effective methods mentioned is creating productized packages.
I love this concept.
It's so smart. Instead of treating your time as an endless series of one-off transactions, you bundle it.
Yeah.
Like a personal trainer might stop selling single $80 hours and instead offer a 10-session transformation package for $800.
And mechanically, this does two huge things. First, it secures a significant upfront cash injection for the business. Second, it shifts the client's mindset from a transactional relationship to a committed program.
They're bought in.
Completely. And apps in the ecosystem, like Meaty, have native features to manage the drawdown of those bundled sessions so you don't have to track them manually on a spreadsheet.
Thank goodness for that. Nobody wants to manage a spreadsheet. And the automation capabilities go even further when you introduce a tool called Shopify Flow. The guide mentions this is available for free on all plans, and it operates on if-then logic gates to create automated workflows.
Which sounds technical, but it's really intuitive.
It really is. To explain the mechanics of how this functions in reality, you essentially program a set of instructions into the back end. You can build a rule that says, if an appointment finishes, then wait 24 hours, then automatically send an email requesting a Google review.
Or you could say, if a client hasn't booked a service in 90 days, then generate a unique 10% discount code, then email it to them with a specific subject line.
And the booking apps integrate directly into these flow logic paths. It functions as a digital receptionist working in the background, constantly nurturing client relationships, handling the tedious follow-up communication, and driving rebookings without any manual input from the business owner.
It's like having an employee who never sleeps.
Exactly. So, synthesizing all of these mechanics, what does this actually mean for you? The overarching takeaway is that you are no longer limited by the traditional constraints of service software. By understanding how to uncheck that physical product box, map variants to your calendar, and leverage automated logic, you can take an infrastructure built to process millions of physical shipments and adapt it into a highly optimized automated digital storefront for your time.
It represents a really fundamental shift in how you view your digital operations. But before we conclude, there is one final, somewhat counterintuitive insight from the source material regarding customer acquisition that I think is really worth analyzing.
Okay, what is it?
It centers on the hidden mechanics of service gift cards.
Gift cards. Really? I mean, they're natively supported across all Shopify plans, but the guide frames them as far more than just a quick cash flow mechanism for the holidays.
Much more. They actually function as a stealth customer acquisition tool that completely reverses the traditional cost of marketing.
Reverses it how?
Well, usually a business pays a platform like Facebook or Google a specific amount of money, the customer acquisition cost, to acquire a new lead. But when you structure your services into a giftable format, the psychology completely flips. Your current, loyal client is literally paying their own money to hand you a brand new, highly qualified customer.
Oh, wow. They are acting as your primary marketing channel, and they are funding the campaign out of their own pocket.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
Furthermore, the source data notes that the recipient of that gift card usually ends up spending more than the initial value of the card when they finally book their appointment or, purchase additional retail products.
It is an incredibly powerful compounding loop. So as you move forward, the question to really consider is, how can you package your own expertise into a format that allows your current clients to become your most effective paying marketers?
Understanding the mechanics of your platform really allows you to ask those kinds of strategic questions rather than just worrying about managing a calendar.
That is a perfect note to end on. That wraps up our exploration of the Shopify service ecosystem. We highly encourage you to take that 10-minute setup challenge we discussed earlier. Look into a free tier of a scheduling app, experiment with unchecking that physical product box, and observe firsthand how quickly you can turn your expertise into an invisible, sellable inventory. The digital real estate is there to be built on. Until next time, keep exploring.